Gen Z have a nice blend of attributes.
They know what is right and what is wrong. They're exposed. They're well informed.
It's not always a sunshine when working with Gen Z.
But we cannot deny that there is a war on talent at the moment in the
Correct.
workspace.
I think leaders should rethink their processes and their structure when they deal with Gen Z.
I do think Gen Z, they want to contribute because they have all of these different wider perspective.
They don't know what information should worth their attention, so they get overwhelmed.
Now you see them discussing very comfortably, very confidently with senior level.
I always encourage leaders, when they assign projects, they have to think of the core.
I think they are building a future that we don't know how it will look like. Welcome to another episode of Lasting Impressions Podcast. As you may know by now, Lasting Impressions Podcast is a podcast dedicated to host individuals that are creating lasting impressions in different fields around them. And today, my guest is creating lasting impressions in a very specific area. He is actually an experienced talent management professional, and he's a leadership trainer and advisor who is very passionate about developing younger generation. He worked with a wide variety of people from universities to consultancy firms and an organization to support them in developing their careers. He is currently Senior Director of Leadership Development at Korn Ferry, and I invited him specifically today to talk about a very important trendy topic, which is Generation Z and how to lead them. My guest today is Ibrahim Badreddin. Welcome, Ibrahim. It's good to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me, Maya.
It's good to have you. Ibrahim, today I invited you, and I'm pretty sure a lot of our audience would like to hear about the topic, to talk about Gen Z. Everybody's talking about Gen Z. They're creating so much waves in the workspace and in our current workplace. Who are the Gen Z and why they're making so much noises?
I agree. I think it's a great topic. I think it's an exciting topic as well, because Gen Z are the newest workforce entrance to the job market. And for us to understand Gen Z, I think it's important to see it from the transformation lens. If we look at the generations in general, the overall context of generations, for example, we take the baby boomers and Gen X, who are currently now, I would say, sitting in executive roles, senior management roles currently. They have witnessed the transformation from moving from basic processing into the early digital tools such as emails or computers. And this has taught them a lessons of dynamic workflow. And then the millennials came to experience the shift in, I would say, or the adoption, the widespread adoption of digital technologies and social media and mobile technologies. And this gave them lessons and taught them a lot about, I would say, collaboration and connectivity. And then, Gen Z came. Gen Z, who are, as I said, the latest entrants to the job market.
So just for the sake of audience, let's clarify the Gen Z years. Which year they were born, the Gen Z?
Gen Z were born in the mid-1990s until 2012. So this make them the latest entrants to the market and the job market.
I have two of them at home.
Yeah, and they contribute a lot to any organizations hiring now. They keep organizations, very busy with the development and hiring. So
what are the attributes they bring to the workforce, Gen Z?
It's important to understand the context of Gen Z. Now, from mid-1990s until today, there has been a constant technology changes and disruption. And I would call it the past 20 years has been the busiest in terms of disruption in the modern world in the past 50, 60 years. So this has made them naturally comfortable and able to thrive in an environment that has constant changes, and they think online, they think digital, and they bring natural fluency in digital aspects. So they are extremely adaptive. If you look at their over-dependence on social media and the exposure they have to different perspective, narratives, and communities, this has given them a world view on different perspectives. So now, as an example, I always count on Gen Z to ask them about the latest trends. And for example, if they want to make a decision, they always refer to multiple influencers on social media. They always refer to people who have stories that were told on social media. So yeah, that's...
But as well, I want to say something. It can help us work as a disclaimer as well. It's true. Gen Z, they have certain trends that we attribute to them. However, it always go back to different personalities. As I told you, I have 2 children that are Gen Z, and I work a lot with Gen Z. And it's true, there is the trendy things related to efficiency, using technology, etc. But they're not all the same. Some people differ because of their personalities. Some people differ because of their talents. It's true. But how can organization understand better Gen Z and their demands?
Exactly. So it's important to mention that Gen Z have a nice blend of attributes. So their exposure to multiple perspectives and narratives, and their fluency in navigating social media and worldviews have given them a great and brilliant adaptability, innovation, and digital first mindset. And guess what? These 3 attributes or perspectives, they are probably the most important characteristic of the future of work now. They are the greatest qualities of successful careers now.
But we cannot deny that there is a war on talent at the moment in
Correct.
the workspace. Attracting Gen Z to organization is very important. So what kind of a role leadership or leaders in organization they should do to attract more Gen Z to the workforce?
This is a great question. I think leaders should understand first the natural behavior of Gen Z for them to be able to tackle their engagement and build on what I said, the agility and the innovation. Because if leaders don't know how to leverage that, I think these 3 great qualities will go to waste. So I think according to Korn Ferry data in a recent study, we suggest that leaders should adopt 3 approaches to better engage Gen Z. So first, I would say that leaders should encourage flexibility at the workplace. And when I say flexibility, I'm not talking about letting them work from home. Because most of the time leaders understand flexibility like you can work from home. It's more of they value, I would say, autonomy over schedule. So they would love to hear, this is the destination we want to go to. It's up to you how to take us there. This is what we want to achieve. Just get it done the way you see it relevant. So they like to contribute as they wish. Gen Z like
So they're not your 9 to 5 come punch in, punch out.
At all, even if they get it done over a Saturday night or with a cup of coffee at Starbucks. I think they believe that kind of flexibility is more correlated to their success.
And how difficult is that for a leader with the old school of leadership to allow that?
I think leaders should rethink their processes and their structure when they deal with Gen Z. Because, as I said, these qualities were formed by rapid and constant technology disruptions, and that's what made them how they are as Gen Z. So the only way to tackle this and engage them and to drive success to their careers is by actually reapproaching or rethinking the process and structure and the rigid system. So here, back to the encouraging flexibility, I think it's important also to avoid putting rigid projects on Gen Z professionals. Instead, we should be designing the projects to fit the skills of Gen Z instead of imposing rigid projects.
Yeah, I'm aware that, you know, rules and processes and procedures are very important in organization. But as you said, adaptability is very important to provide flexibility from a leadership perspective. I'll give you an example. I was doing a workshop on employee experience. Now we talk about employee experience because we need to provide them with this experience, specifically the new workforce. If you don't provide the employee with this experience that allows that flexibility, they will leave.
Correct.
We were discussing, you know, benefits. And one of the attendees raised his hand, who was, you know, an HR professional, and he challenged and he said, we provide people who have families with schooling, with family allowance, etc. What about the people who are single, who do not want to have a family? What are we providing them to compensate? You know, and then we started looking at their needs as individuals. Some of them, for example, they had pets that they are for them as family. So why not organization providing a certain flexibility to cater to the different needs? I am like you. I don't believe flexibility is only in working hours or working from home. I think flexibility as well in being creative to cater to the different needs of Gen Z.
100%. And I think to your point, Maya, what's good about Gen Z is they are expressive. Most of the time, they actually come as very vocal about their needs, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you would never be doing guesswork on what would motivate my team if my team is Gen Z, because they are expressive only if, of course, you're giving them the right platform to express themselves. They are vocal about their needs, about even how you could address their needs. They come with ideas. I remember I worked with bunch of great interns at one point in my career, and I remember they came to me with a suggestion on how to bring sunlight to the office.
Nice.
And I actually expected that from the full-time managers, but it came from interns because they made it easy to be expressive first by being expressive about, you know, the only way to work with full productivity from this office is by having sunlight, and they actually suggested certain ways to get this done. So yes, I think they could be very helpful in helping you understand their needs and their motive and drive.
Yeah, you spoke about the first one and you said flexibility. What was the second one?
The second one that the recent Korn Ferry research suggests that is basically building a culture of learning. So for many leaders, Maya, learning is approached, you know, the 70-20-10 learning approach rule. We only tackle the 10%, which is attending a workshop, transfer of knowledge.
Can you clarify for the sake of audience, what is that rule?
So 70% is basically experiential learning. Hands-on. People learn effectively when they are put on a job-related tasks, projects. The 20% is basically the collaboration and the interaction that happens with people. And the 10% is the acquisition of knowledge through a lecture, through reading,
formal
way. So Gen Z, they do not appreciate the 10% only. They value hands-on. So by nature, because of, you know, their excitement and interest in always understanding the latest trends, they want to be part of. So I'll give you an example. If you really have in your team a bunch of Gen Zs, professionals, and you want them to master a usage of a software or technology, never send a couple of slides or ask them to jump on a call to take them through the software. Just give them access. They will figure it out. Give them access, or maybe let them attend a meeting with the technology team also with the suppliers of that technology or the software. So cross function meetings, brainstorming sessions, working with other functions and other teams on a project from the very beginning, any form of hands-on experience would definitely fuel motivation.
Yeah, I agree with you, because nowadays with most of the workshops that we provide, we're trying to stray away from the PowerPoint, old school. So we're really introducing a lot of experiential learning, hands-on approach, especially with the Gen Z. They do not want to sit down as well. They do not want to sit down and listen on and on and on. Even in my approach in our organization, Lasting Impressions, we do not provide training programs that are, 8-hour long. So we're chunking it into shorter learning and making it active learning to cater for the new generation. They want to have hands-on experience. They want to enjoy the learning process. And I think Kolb's theory of learning, Kolb will be happy as well that his theory is being used more and more in the learning atmosphere. It's all about experiencing the learning.
Correct.
So it can stick in, so I can learn what is in it for me, this learning, and go immediately and apply it and transfer it on the job.
Correct. And in that same recent study, many Gen Z professionals were asked, what's the most important factor in your career growth? They mentioned skill development.
Yeah.
So I've spoken with so many young professionals in the past 2 years, and lately, especially post-corona, and with all the changes happening in AI and automation and technology disruptions, most of the young professionals were looking for a change in their careers because of the lack of skills development. Because of the lack
So
of
salary
learning.
is not the sole attractor anymore.
Not at their age now, not at their stage now, because again, they believe they want to stay relevant. And if you think about it, the Gen Z now are the future leaders. So who will be leading all the future disruptions? Them. So I think also from another AI example, these professionals that Gen Z, they were not taught AI at the universities. But if you look at their knowledge in AI now, they are probably the most knowledgeable people in AI because of being part of a lot of
exposed. They're exposed.
They are exposed, but they intentionally expose themselves. That's the thing. They are always excited to have hands-on experience in every disruption, every technology. They can naturally adapt to any new technology. They can naturally feel they want to be part of any new technological change. And this is a challenge for leaders.
Yeah. And what is the third one?
The third one is basically collaboration. I want to think of what we discussed at the very beginning. They are agile. They are fueled by innovation. So how could we not promote collaboration for people who are agile and they value innovation and digital mindset? So we would always encourage leaders to create a culture of collaboration where people are seen. Gen Z are not only seen, but also they are allowed to contribute when they want and work with others. And
They want a place at the table.
They want a place at the table. That's a good way of saying it. And I always encourage bringing Gen Z to cross-functional meetings because they are very comfortable navigating different perspectives. And again, what we mentioned at the very beginning, researchers have told us they have they make decisions based on understanding the
wider space.
So if you don't allow them to have access to that wider space, you're actually locking their potential. You have to give them a space you have to give them the passport to see the wider space. And in the business language, the wider space is being or giving them access to probably the technology team, the finance team, the latest projects, putting them on assignments, giving them access to the strategy and vision. Like you've seen a lot of Gen Z, they come and ask and show interest in discussing the company vision and the company plan.
Yeah, and it's true because we've been talking for years now. You hear the topic about diversity and inclusion, right? Diversity, we have the diverse people, diverse talent, but the inclusivity is very important. Allowing people to bring the different things into the table and including them in the discussions, including them in the decision making. And I do think Gen Z, they want to contribute because they have all of these different wider perspective. And this will contribute as well to more creativity, more ideas to the table. And as you mentioned, collaboration.
Correct.
Yeah, beautiful. But all of this are challenging for organization with all the changes that are going on in the technology, in the world, in the way business is being run at the moment. This adds a lot of challenges to organization. So what are the recommendation, or from your perspective and the research and your exposure to the field, how would organization face these challenges that are related to Gen Z?
Yes, so Maya, as we said, yes, Gen Z professionals, they do have the three qualities that are considered the brilliant mix of a successful future at work. As we said, innovation, agility, and digital mindset. However, leaders, even if they try their best to know how to tackle these and leverage these qualities to make a better innovative culture and workplace and agile workplace, still sometimes they struggle in engaging them because, it's not always a sunshine when working with Gen Z. So I'll give you an example. I have a cousin. He's a Gen Z professional. He was born in the late 90s. So 2 years ago, he was in his second or third year of university studies. So he called me asking me what I think of his decision of dropping out. So what was interesting was not the dropping out notion. It was the reason, the why behind that. So what made him think of dropping out? So the fact that this generation is extremely online generation, they have massive access to information. And this sometimes can be very stressful to them, and they cannot sometimes, or most of the time, they don't know what information should be given attention or worth their attention. So they get overwhelmed, stressed, and because they are impatient, so they decide that, you know what, I want to get access to each and every trend I have. So my cousin was worried about being left out in the AI world opportunity and real estate boom in the region. So he was overwhelmed and stressed. So when I read that recent study about the fact that this generation has to be very, I would say, careful when dealing with information. Because the fact that they have access to it and they have over dependence on understanding perspectives and they seek multiple narratives, this could actually make them come as impatient and confused.
It's true. I've had few experiences as well. There is a lot of freelancers working now, Gen Z freelancers. Because they think they can lead the business, they can have their own business. With respect, of course, I work with a lot of freelancers. They think they can lead the business, and then you give them a small feedback, they drop out immediately. They don't want to work with you anymore, or they move on very quickly. But in business and in a context of business, it's very important that, we stick around, we learn, we try, we make mistakes. And this requires a different level of resilience. We say that Gen Z are resilient, but at the same time, dropping out and moving fast, quickly, and being impatient, is it a sign of resilience?
I would say that sometimes they could be too resilient, so they move quickly, they move on quickly. And sometimes we don't want them to move quickly. We want them to face the challenges because whenever you're uncomfortable, that's when the learning starts, right? So again, I believe it has to do with how they were raised, with being raised in a constant changing environment. They keep adapting. So now when they approach career, they don't have to approach it the exact same way. They don't have to keep moving on. They come as impatient and too resilient sometimes, so they move quickly. And this could work against them.
But this brings as well a notion in psychology. We speak about stickability, which is the commitment and not letting go quickly, that is linked to the mental toughness. Maybe this is a skill that Gen Z can benefit from learning as well. They're learning, they're so used to this fast-paced environment, to the change, to the efficiency of technology. However, maybe as a support to that, they could learn stickability and commitment and, sticking around for a while until they develop a certain level of skills before they drop and move on, or before they progress.
Exactly, Maya, 100%. And I think this has to also do with the ability of the leader, as we mentioned from a bit, the ability to set the right engagement metrics on how to deal with Gen Z, so they don't, go and do another great resignation wave. And also, they have to know how to approach development. So engagement is one pillar of making Gen Z stick. And development as well, because they sometimes lack certain competencies, certain skills, and we have, as leaders, it's our responsibility to develop that behavior that is required from them to stick around, be more acceptive of the challenges, and grow.
So this requires a certain leadership skill to handle generation.
Definitely. And I think nothing beats science, right? In Korn Ferry, we have done massive research based on assessment data that was accumulated in the past 4 or 5 decades. So the study has told us that success at the individual or entry-level individual contributors, who are technically Gen Z now, there's a certain competencies that are correlated to success at their level. So it's important for leaders to approach development for Gen Z away from guesswork. And when I say science, the science is understanding what makes them successful. So according to our research, there are certain competencies. There are a couple, but maybe we can touch on the top 2 or 3. So for example, action-oriented. Action-oriented kind of behavior is important to be developed, because Gen Z, when they don't feel they are contributing, they leave. When they don't feel they are heard or part of the result that was achieved, they leave. This is why it's important for them to be it's important for the leaders to develop that competency, which is about action orientation. I mean, how could the Gen Z professional behave to ensure that the objectives are met? So maybe it's about the workflow, it's about project management, it's about so many different set of skills that are required to be adopted. So that's one. I think 2, what's correlated also with the success is communication. I've never seen a Gen Z who would be excited about his job if he's not given the chance to work with others. I always find Gen Z coming to me, professionals coming to me, telling me about stories about a director, a VP. So they enjoy, they are fueled if they get the opportunity to work or attend a meeting with an executive or with a senior. I don't think this is a drive for others and other generations now, but for Gen Z, it is definitely a drive to let them work with others.
And you see them
others.
Actually, I observe sometimes younger generation, like back in my days, it was like, wow, to talk to the CEO or, someone from the C-suite. Now you see them discussing very comfortably, very confidently with senior level. They want, they want to be in touch with those people. They want to learn. They want to share their opinion. They want to talk. They have more, if you want, the grit. Once
Correct.
Again, it's related to their resilience than our generation, I would say.
Correct. And the recent study at Korn Ferry even says that they get easily frustrated with the outdated processes because they are driven by innovation. They want to see things, they want to change something.
Yeah.
They want to change the processes into a more customer-centric kind of thing because they understand the outer space, outer world. So back to collaboration, the only way to fuel innovation is by giving them access to other perspectives in the business. So that's where the collaboration could help. So this is an important competency. This is an important set of skills that leaders should be really developing.
But Ibrahim, as well, I want to challenge a status quo here. It's true, they want to learn. However, they have access to overload of information. They can look at ChatGPT, they look at AI, and this sometimes, probably, correct me if I'm wrong, they think they know it all.
Yeah.
You know, and then they maybe have the information, but they didn't have the time to experience, you know, applying that information and applying it in real life scenarios. So what would you say about that? Well, people who, you know, or the younger generation, they think they know it all. They think they know more than the older generation about technology. Yes, probably. I ask my kids a lot of questions about technology that I don't know, and they know more than me. However, there is the element of experiencing and the element of, you know, wisdom that comes with experience and age and trial and error.
Correct. So there's a quote, I learned it from my business school, the more you know, the more you dare.
Yeah.
So sometimes, and again, there's a disclaimer here, not everyone would probably be a good fit with this example. Sometimes they come, and I agree, Maya, they come as I know it all. And they dare to make contributions and take actions and suggest so many things. But the minute I think we start involving them in projects, then we will give them back the modesty of their knowledge. Like you've been part of a technology mobilization or a transformation project, or you work with seniors, and that's why it's important, again, from a bit we talked about the best practices of leaders to encourage collaboration and involve them in projects. That's where they start learning about their capacity. That's how they start learning about what they know, what they don't know. And that's when they start realizing that they need to learn.
And I think coaching and mentorship plays a huge role in this area.
But I would say the prerequisite for the coaching is always investing in their self-awareness. So self-awareness.
And how can they
important.
increase their self-awareness?
Again, I'm a big advocate of putting people on cross-function projects and stretched assignments. Because again, the minute they start contributing on a bigger scale, the minute they start knowing what knowledge they don't know, you know, because sometimes they don't know, people don't know what they don't know. They will start figuring it out by being part of stretched projects, assignments, and start getting feedbacks.
Yeah. What about the assessment, providing them with the individual assessment?
Definitely. So feedback is one thing, self-reflection is one thing, but also the scientific approach of, you know, psychometric assessments. People should be really investing time to know about their natural preferences. I call it behavioral DNA. So we're all born with a behavioral identity, right? So if they don't know their behavioral identity, if people don't know, especially the young professionals, if they don't know their natural identity, natural preferences, they will jump on projects that will fail them. They will jump into discussions that make them look bad. They will jump into maybe collaboration platforms and opportunities that does not fuel their motive. It will probably backfire and demotivate them. So it's definitely an important prerequisite to success. Knowing
the self.
Knowing yourself. Knowing what you're good at. Self-awareness. Not in terms of abilities. Abilities, you can always go and work on it. In terms of natural traits, how you approach life, how you approach people.
Your preferences.
How
your
you
dark
like,
sides.
Exactly.
Your strengths.
How you would probably prefer building relationships.
what triggers you, how to deal
Correct.
with it. Amazing.
Correct.
But there is another side of the coin when it comes to overload of information. I do observe it, and I see it as well with leaders I work with. They face a lot of burnout and stress and overwhelm for the young generation. It's true, we said they're resilient. At point, this overwhelm of information and this stress they go through from technology, from stimulus, we talk about the popcorn brain. They have a lot of stimulus coming their way. They do face burnout and stress in the workplace. How leaders should tackle this area as well?
This is brilliant, Maya. I think there's a thin line between leaders keeping Gen Z professionals busy with projects for them to learn and burning them out. So we are all hired to do a certain core responsibilities, right?
Yeah.
We were never hired for a job and we were told, listen, I'm going to hire you and we would like you to drive value as you see fit. No, we are hired to drive value to a certain core responsibility. So the leader's responsibility is to let the professionals of the Gen Z learn within their core responsibilities first. So many times I meet young professionals who are frustrated, even though they got an amazing job in a brilliant consulting firm, but they are frustrated because they don't see that this project is in line with what they were probably excited about in their job. So I always encourage leaders, when they assign projects, they have to think of the core responsibility. That's where the Gen Z professional is actually trying to make success credentials here. So think of first making the Gen Z professional successful in his core set of responsibilities, then start taking him.
Where they can add impact.
Yeah, let him feel or let her feel the impact in her core set of responsibilities before we start assigning projects that don't really align with the responsibilities that the professional said I'd love to be part of.
I have to say something and give credits to the younger generation that they are better than us in setting boundaries. We said they are more vocal, but they can say no, and they know how to separate work from personal life. They know when to stop. So how can we deal with that in the workplace that is a demanding workplace?
I think this is a good thing, to be honest. I think it's good to give them that space to educate us about their drive and motive. And I agree with you, they are more vocal, more expressive. It's all up to the leader to maintain a certain conversation, healthy conversation, to tackle always in real time what probably would upset.
I find leaders struggling understanding that or struggling to handle it because the workspace is very demanding. And then you have the younger generation say, sorry, time is finished. They want to leave on time, they don't want to overload themselves, or they don't want to do the hard work. Do you see it from this perspective or not?
Again, it's part of understanding the flexibility that they aspire to get. So Gen Z professionals, they really, really like to have their own style in working. So it's basically all about autonomy, as we said, over schedule.
Yeah. Now we move to another segment of the episode where I'm going to ask you rapid fire questions. You don't need to think a lot, just the first thing that comes to your mind and you will answer it. Ready?
Yes.
Fantastic. What is one unique quality that Gen Z appreciate in a leader?
Being authentic.
What is a workplace important demand for Gen Z?
I would say flexibility and self-development opportunities.
What is one misconception that leaders have about the Gen Z?
Oh, interesting. I think they can be more innovative than what we think.
Okay, but they can be more innovative. So we think they're not innovative, the leaders?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think the leaders understand the fresh perspectives and the exposure of the exposure they have to the global narratives. We don't invest time. Our generation and other generations don't invest time in understanding that number of perspectives that are there out there.
What is, in general, the leadership approach when Gen Z give them feedback? They hate it or they like it?
Yeah, I don't think they do well with that. I don't think they do well with that, and I think we should encourage that.
Yeah, do you think we should listen more for feedback from the younger generation?
Of course, I mean, we should even. This is a skill to give feedback to peers, right? We should also educate them and develop them to give feedback in all directions. Yeah.
Yeah. What is an important recognition that Gen Z are expecting from the leadership?
Exposure. They are expecting from leaders to expose them to learning opportunities, to give them collaboration opportunities, not to be put in a box, probably.
What is, in your opinion, from what you've observed, is the top challenges leaders are facing with the Gen Z?
Retention. I would say retention, and we talked about what triggers their retention or stickiness. Yeah.
One last one. How did social media contribute to create a false leadership modeling for the Gen Z? Give you an example. The Gen Z now look at social media, they see Elon Musk, they see Jeff Bezos, they see, Richard Branson. So how did social media contribute into creating this role modeling of leadership that perhaps maybe created a conflict of what they see in reality, the younger generation?
That's a very good point, because as we mentioned, the fact that they are exposed to so many narratives and perspectives, they probably don't know how to deal with what's worth their attention. So it's ending up most of the time in unrealistic expectations about what treatment they could get from their corporate, from their employer, from their leader. So this is why conversations that should be initiated by the leader to set the pace. We shouldn't be expecting the Gen Z to figure it out by themselves. We should be, as leaders, promoting a culture of conversations, and that's where the culture of expectations will be shaped.
And I think as well there is work as well from the leadership side to work on creating a role modeling image that matches the new generation as well. It's not acceptable as a leader not to really build your personal brand now, to be a thought leader, to be visible, to take time to nurture and to coach and to, to develop the Gen Z, because they know what is right and what is wrong. They're exposed, they're well informed, and I think they are building a future that we don't know how it will look like. I know this is a very wide topic and we can discuss it for days. I would love as well to share with the audience that most of the research that we spoke about and we based our conversation, they will be added to the description of the episode in the links. So we will make it available for you to read and to have access to these studies that are done by Korn Ferry. So thank you for making it available as well for us in this episode. So now we move to a tradition we have on the podcast. We provide it to every guest, and we ask you to make a wish that will help you create more lasting impressions in your field. So what would you wish for if you have, a genie coming out and saying, I'll make a wish come true? What would that wish be?
Well, to be able to help young professionals, to be honest, in my perspective, one of the most impactful factor to the success of their careers is letting them understand their identities more, not their abilities, their traits, what they are comfortable doing, their natural behavior. Because if I help them have this kind of self-awareness discussions and get to know their traits, I can assure that their career, a lot of career decisions they will be making will be right. They will be joining the right kind of culture. They will be probably joining the right kind of job, doing the right kind of responsibilities, because they will probably be in a better position to match these with their traits.
Ibrahim, we're almost to the end of our episode. The guest that was before you, this is another tradition on our podcast, left a question or a random thought or, a quote for you under this glass here. So if you would like to pick it up and read it, you will be
Sure.
leaving one for the guest as well after you.
So the question is, who's your favorite chef? Oh, that's an easy answer. My favorite chef is my wife.
Wow.
She is she sets standards for food for me, at least. She's good in multiple meals, I would say.
Which dish is your favorite dish that she cooks?
She's good in Lebanese dishes. I would say it's simple, but lubia is.
Oh,
is
I
her
love lubia.
signature.
Lubia بالزيت, she does.
Lubia, all forms of lubia. It's her signature.
Amazing. I need the ingredients.
Definitely.
I wish my husband would say the same. He
No.
sent me to a 1-year cooking school, but I'm not sure if I'm his favorite chef.
No, I'm sure you are.
Well, Ibrahim, this was really a very interesting and deep conversation. Always a pleasure discussing leadership with you. Thank you so much for your time. I would like to thank the audience as well for listening to us or for watching us. If you liked this episode, please like it, share it, and remember to subscribe to all our platform. Thank you so much for being with us, and see you in the next episode.